On a stormy night in Atlanta, a weary single father drives his little daughter home after a long, late shift. Through the heavy rain, he suddenly spots a woman stumbling before collapsing right in front of his truck. Her body is bruised, trembling, and filled with fear. Without thinking twice, he lifts her up and takes her home to help. What he doesn't know is that the woman is a powerful CEO on the run from a dangerous conspiracy. And from that moment on, his quiet life will never be the same again. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from. And subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The rain hammered against the windshield like angry fists. Jamal Rivers squinted through the blur, his calloused hands steady on the wheel of his beat-up Ford F-150. The wipers scraped back and forth, squeak, thump, squeak, barely keeping up. "Daddy, I'm sleepy." He glanced in the rear-view mirror. Zoe sat buckled in the back seat, her Hello Kitty doll clutched against her chest. 7 years old, and still fighting bedtime like it was her greatest enemy. "I know, baby girl. Almost home." "You said that 10 minutes ago." Jamal couldn't help but smile. "This time, I mean it." The digital clock on the dashboard blinked 11:47 p.m. Another late shift fixing faulty wiring in some overpriced condo downtown. His back ached. His fingers were stiff from gripping pliers all day. But the check would clear by Friday, and that meant Zoe's school supplies were covered for another month. That's all that mattered. He turned onto Martin Luther King Jr. Drive the streetlights casting orange pools on the wet asphalt. Vine City at night was quiet, the kind of quiet that made you drive a little slower, look a little longer at dark corners. Then his headlights caught something. A figure, stumbling. "Daddy, I see her." The woman lurched forward into the beam of his headlights, one arm wrapped around her ribs, the other reaching out like she was grabbing for something that wasn't there. Her white blazer was streaked with dark stains. Her blonde hair hung in wet tangles across her face. She took 2 more steps. Then her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the pavement. "Oh my God!" Jamal slammed the brakes. The truck skidded slightly, stopping just feet away from her crumpled body. "Daddy, is she gonna die?" "Stay in the truck, Zoe. Lock the doors." "But lock them." He threw the door open and jumped out, rain immediately soaking through his flannel shirt. His boots splashed through puddles as he ran to her. She was on her side, gasping. Her hands clawed weakly at the ground. Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her head turned toward him, blue eyes wide, terrified, glassy with pain. "Please," her voice cracked. "Please don't hurt me." "I'm not gonna hurt you." Jamal crouched down, keeping his hands visible. Old instincts from his Marine days kicked in. Assess, stabilize, secure. "My name's Jamal. I'm gonna help you, okay?" She flinched when he moved closer. "It's okay. I'm not gonna touch you unless you say I can, but you're hurt bad. Can you tell me what happened?" Her lips trembled. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead. Her right ankle was swollen bent at an angle that made Jamal's stomach turn. He's coming," she whispered. "They're coming for me." "Who's coming?" Before she could answer, headlights flared behind them. Jamal turned. A black Mercedes SUV rolled to a stop 30 feet away. The engine idled. Then 3 doors opened. 2 men in dark suits stepped out first. Big guys, the kind who got paid to intimidate. Then came a third man, taller, expensive charcoal suit that probably cost more than Jamal's truck. His hair was slicked back, his face sharp and cold. He walked forward with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "Step away from her." His voice was smooth, controlled, dangerous. Jamal didn't move. "She's injured. She needs help." "That's my fiancée. This is a private matter." Jamal glanced down at the woman. She was shaking her head, eyes squeezed shut, tears mixing with rain on her cheeks. "Doesn't look like she wants to go with you. You know what your problem is. You're making judgments about situations you don't understand. This is a private family matter." He gestured dismissively at Jamal. "And you are nobody. A stranger with a savior complex and a pickup truck. Maybe. But I'm the nobody standing between you and her." The man's expression hardened. He nodded once. The 2 suits moved forward. "Sir, you need to step aside," the first one said, his voice flat and professional. "Not happening. Last warning. I don't take warnings from guys who get paid to hurt people." The suit's face twitched. "You really want to do this over some woman you don't even know?" "Yeah," Jamal said quietly. "I really do." The suit lunged. Jamal sidestepped muscle memory from a dozen street fights in Detroit, from hand-to-hand drills in Paris Island, and drove his elbow into the man's ribs. Hard. The suit grunted, stumbled. The second suit came in fast, swinging wild. Jamal ducked under the punch, pivoted, and swept the man's legs out from under him. He went down, heavy, splashing into a puddle. The first suit recovered, charging again. This time, Jamal met him head-on. He caught the man's wrist mid-swing, twisted it sharply, felt the joint strain, and shoved him backward into the side of the Mercedes. The man's head bounced off the door with a dull thunk. He slid down, dazed. The second suit scrambled to his feet, breathing hard rage in his eyes. "Come on, then," Jamal said, his voice calm despite his pounding heart. "Let's see what else you got." The suit hesitated. Then he rushed forward. Jamal shifted his weight, caught the man's momentum, and redirected it, using the guy's own force against him. The suit's feet left the ground. He hit the asphalt hard, the air exploding out of his lungs. He didn't get back up. Jamal straightened, chest-heaving rain dripping from his hair. His knuckles throbbed. His shoulder ached where one of them had clipped him. But he was still standing. The man in the expensive suit stood, frozen, his eyes wide. For the first time, the mask of control slipped. He stared at Jamal, really looked at him. His gaze landed on Jamal's left forearm. The tattoo. Eagle. Globe. Anchor. "You're a Marine," the man said slowly. Jamal said nothing. The man's jaw clenched. His hands balled into fists at his sides, but he didn't move forward. He glanced at his two men, one slumped against the car, the other flat on his back in the rain. Then he looked back at Jamal. Pure hatred burned in his eyes. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," he said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "Maybe," Jamal replied, "but it's my mistake to make." The man pointed a finger at him, his hand trembling. "You think this is over? You think you can just walk away? I will bury you. I'll destroy everything you have. Your job, your home, your—" His eyes flicked toward the truck, where Zoe's small face was pressed against the window. Jamal's expression went cold. "Finish that sentence. I dare you." The man's mouth snapped shut. For a long moment they stood there in the rain, staring each other down. Then the man turned sharply on his heel. "Get up!" he barked at his men. "We're leaving." The two suits dragged themselves to their feet, limping back to the SUV. The man paused at the driver's side door, looking back one last time. "Her name is Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Tech. When she ruins your life, and she will remember that I tried to warn you." He got in. The Mercedes peeled out tires, screeching, disappearing into the night. Jamal stood there for a moment, breathing hard, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. Then he turned back to the woman, Victoria. She was staring at him, her face pale, her eyes wide with shock. "You," her voice was barely a whisper, "you fought them. For me. You don't even know me." Jamal walked over and knelt down beside her. "Doesn't matter. You needed help. That's enough." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Why?" Because he said simply, "It's the right thing to do." He slid one arm under her shoulders, the other beneath her knees, and lifted her carefully. She was lighter than he expected. She winced, biting back a cry when her ankles shifted. "I got you," he murmured. "I got you." The passenger door of the truck swung open. Zoe had unlocked it. "Daddy, you were so cool." Her eyes were huge. "You knocked them down like superheroes do." "Zoe, baby, not now." Jamal settled Victoria into the passenger seat as gently as he could. She clutched her small designer purse to her chest like it was a lifeline. Zoe leaned forward from the back seat, her voice softening. "Hi, I'm Zoe. Don't be scared, okay? My daddy's really strong. He'll keep you safe." Victoria looked at the little girl. Something in her expression cracked just a little. She tried to smile, but it came out broken. "Thank you," she whispered. Jamal climbed back into the driver's seat, soaked to the bone, his knuckles already starting to bruise. He cranked the heat up and pulled back onto the road. "We're going to the hospital," he said. "No!" Victoria grabbed his arm, panic spiking in her voice. "No hospitals, please. They'll find me there. Ma'am, your ankle's broken. You need a doctor. I can't." Her breathing quickened. "Please, I'm begging you. Just somewhere safe. Anywhere but a hospital." Jamal glanced at her, at the terror in her eyes, at the way her hands shook. He'd seen that look before. Baghdad. Fallujah. People who'd been hunted. He let out a long breath. All right. My place. It's not much, but it's safe. I can patch you up. I was a corpsman in the service. But if you get worse, we're going to a hospital." "Deal." She nodded, sagging back against the seat. Zoe reached forward and gently placed her small hand on Victoria's shoulder. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're with us now." Victoria closed her eyes, and for the first time that night, she stopped shaking. Jamal drove in silence, his mind racing. He didn't know who this woman was, didn't know what she was running from, didn't know if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life, but he knew one thing. He couldn't leave her in that street. So he drove home through the rain with a stranger in his truck and his daughter's soft humming filling the silence. The apartment building slowly emerged and looked like it had given up trying years ago. Late Fan 2. Dem Dao Tien. Su Tu Te La Lam. The apartment building looked like it had given up decades ago. Cracked concrete steps, peeling paint on the front door, a buzzer system that hadn't worked since the Clinton administration. Jamal pulled into the small lot behind the building and killed the engine. "We're here," he said quietly. Victoria opened her eyes. She'd been silent the entire drive, staring out the window at the passing streetlights. Now she looked at the building and something flickered across her face, not disappointment, but something softer. Surprise, maybe. "This is where you live. Second floor. It's not the Ritz, but the heat works and the roof doesn't leak." Jamal climbed out. Most of the time, he came around to her side and opened the door carefully. "I'm gonna carry you again." "Okay. Stairs are going to be rough on that ankle." She nodded. This time, when he lifted her, she didn't stiffen. She let her head rest against his shoulder, exhaustion finally catching up to adrenaline. Zoe scrambled out after them, clutching her doll in one hand and Victoria's designer purse in the other. "I got her bag, Daddy." "Good girl. Stay close." The stairwell smelled like old curry and bleach. Jamal took the steps slowly, mindful of Victoria's ankle, mindful of how her breathing hitched every time he shifted his weight. "Almost there," he murmured. "Second floor, third door on the left." He had to awkwardly maneuver to get his keys out while still holding her, but Zoe was already reaching up, pulling the keys from his pocket, like they'd done this dance 100 times before. She unlocked the door. "Welcome to Casa Rivers," Jamal said with a wry smile. The apartment was exactly 650 square feet. Living room, kitchen, 2 small bedrooms, 1 bathroom. The walls were covered in Zoe's crayon drawings, families holding hands, rainbows, flowers with smiling faces. The furniture was mismatched, a couch from Goodwill, a coffee table Jamal had built himself from scrap wood, a small TV on a milk crate. But it was clean, organized, the kind of place where someone cared even if they didn't have much. Victoria's eyes swept the room as Jamal carried her to the couch. "Here we go. Easy now." He set her down, gently propping a pillow behind her back. She winced as her ankle settled, but she didn't cry out. Jamal knelt in front of her, his voice steady and calm. "I'm gonna need to look at your ankle and that cut on your forehead. Is that okay?" She nodded, her hands gripping the edge of the couch. "Zoe, go get the first aid kit. Red box under the bathroom sink." "Okay." Zoe darted off her little footsteps, pattering across the worn hardwood. Jamal looked up at Victoria. "I'm going to be straight with you. I can stabilize your ankle, clean your wounds, give you something for the pain. But I'm not a doctor. Not anymore. If things get worse, infection, swelling, anything, we're going to a hospital. No arguments." "Okay," she whispered. "I need you to trust me for the next few minutes. It's going to hurt. I'll go as fast as I can." She met his eyes. "I trust you." Those 3 words landed heavier than they should have. Jamal cleared his throat and gently reached for her right foot. She hissed in pain as he carefully removed her expensive leather heel. Louboutin, he noticed, though he only knew the brand because Sarah used to point them out in magazines, laughing at the price tags. The ankle was bad, swollen to twice its normal size, already turning deep purple. The angle was wrong. "Definitely broken," he said quietly. "I'm going to stabilize it, but you really should get an X-ray." "Later," she said through gritted teeth. "Please, just make it stop hurting." Zoe returned with the red tackle box that served as their medical kit. Jamal had kept it stocked since his Marine days, gauze, antiseptic elastic bandages, a small splint pain meds. He worked quickly and efficiently. Cleaned the cut on her forehead first, shallow, wouldn't need stitches. Applied butterfly bandages. Then he turned his attention to her ankle. "This is gonna hurt," he warned. "I know." He wrapped the ankle carefully, firmly immobilizing it as best he could with the splint and elastic bandages. Victoria bit down on her lower lip so hard it went white, but she didn't make a sound. When he finished, he sat back on his heels. "Done. Best I can do without a hospital." "Thank you," she breathed. He He stood and went to the kitchen, returning a moment later with a glass of water and 2 pills. Ibuprofen. It'll help with the pain and swelling. She took them gratefully, washing them down in one long gulp. Jamal grabbed a clean towel from the bathroom and draped it over her shoulders. She was still damp from the rain, shivering slightly. "I'll get you something dry to wear in a minute," he said. "But first," he paused. "Are you hungry? When's the last time you ate?" Victoria opened her mouth, closed it. I don't remember." "Right. I'll make you something." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. But you're here. You're hurt. And you need food. So I'm making you something." He said it matter-of-factly, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. He disappeared into the kitchen. Victoria sat on the couch, wrapped in the towel, staring at the room around her. The crayon drawings, the clean but worn furniture, the small radio on the shelf. No TV, she realized. Just the radio. Zoe climbed onto the couch beside her, careful not to jostle her ankle. "Does it hurt a lot?" Zoe asked, her voice small. "A little," Victoria admitted, "but your dad made it better. He's really good at fixing things. He fixes lights and stuff for people, but he used to fix people too. In the war." Victoria looked at the little girl. "He told you about that?" "Some." Zoe hugged her doll closer. "He doesn't like to talk about it, but sometimes he has bad dreams, and I hear him." Something in Victoria's chest tightened. "What's your name?" Zoe asked. "Victoria." "That's pretty. Like a princess name." Zoe tilted her head. "Are you a princess?" Victoria let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "No, sweetheart, I'm not a princess. But you have fancy clothes. And that man in the suit said you're important. Being important doesn't make you a princess. It just makes you busy and sometimes lonely." Zoe considered this. Then she held out her doll. "You can hold Bella if you want. She helps when I'm sad." Victoria's throat went tight. She took the worn, stuffed rabbit, holding it carefully like it was made of glass. "Thank you," she whispered. From the kitchen came the sound of something sizzling. A few minutes later, Jamal emerged with a plate, scrambled eggs toast, a sliced apple. "Nothing fancy," he said, setting it on the coffee table. "But it's hot, and it's food." Victoria stared at the plate. When was the last time someone had cooked for her, actually stood in a kitchen and made her something to eat? Not because they were paid to, but because they cared. She couldn't remember. "Eat," Jamal said gently. "You'll feel better." She picked up the fork with trembling hands and took a bite. It was the best thing she'd ever tasted, not because it was gourmet, not because it was perfectly seasoned, but because it was kind. She ate slowly, and with every bite, something inside her began to crack open. The tears came without warning, silent, steady, spilling down her cheeks and onto the plate. Jamal noticed immediately. "Did I hurt you when I wrapped your ankle?" "No." She shook her head, unable to stop crying. "No, you didn't hurt me." "Then what?" Her voice broke. "I'm not used to this." "Used to what?" "Being cared for." She looked up at him, tears streaming. "People doing things for me without wanting something back, without an agenda, without—" She couldn't finish. Jamal's expression softened. He grabbed the towel and gently dabbed at her cheeks. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe here. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Not tonight." Zoe scooted closer and wrapped her small arms around Victoria's waist. "Don't cry. Please don't cry." Victoria looked down at the little girl, then up at Jamal, standing there with grease stains on his shirt and concern in his eyes. She thought about her penthouse, 3,000 square feet of marble and glass overlooking the city, custom furniture, a chef's kitchen she'd never used, a home that had never once felt like this, warm, real, safe. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice raw. "Thank you for stopping, for fighting for me, for bringing me here. You didn't have to do any of that." Jamal crouched down so he was at eye level with her. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I did." Later, after Victoria had finished eating and Zoe had been tucked into bed, Jamal brought out an old pair of Sarah's sweatpants and a t-shirt. "Bathroom's on the left," he said, handing them to her. "Take your time. Yell if you need help." Victoria limped to the bathroom, leaning heavily on the wall. When she closed the door behind her and looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Mascara streaked down her face, hair tangled and wild, the butterfly bandages stark white against her pale skin. She looked broken. But for the first time in years, she also looked real. She changed into the borrowed clothes, too big soft from years of washing, and when she came back out, Jamal had made up the couch with a blanket and pillow. "You take the couch tonight," he said. I'll be in the chair if you need anything. I can't take your bed. You're not. Zoe's got the bedroom. I sleep out here most nights anyway. He gestured to the worn recliner in the corner. Old habit from the core. Light sleeper. Easier to hear if something's wrong. Victoria lowered herself onto the couch, exhaustion finally winning. Jamal turned off the overhead light, leaving just a small lamp on in the corner. Good night, Victoria. Good night, Jamal. She lay there in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the apartment, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sirens outside, Jamal's steady breathing from the chair. And for the first time in months, maybe years, she felt something she'd almost forgotten: hope. The next morning, Victoria woke to the smell of coffee and something sweet baking. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the pain in her ankle reminded her sharp insistent. She winced, pushing herself up on the couch. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains. The apartment looked different in daylight. Smaller, yes, but warmer somehow. The crayon drawings on the walls seemed brighter, more alive. Morning, she turned. Jamal stood in the kitchen doorway, a dish towel over his shoulder. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept much, but his voice was gentle. "How's the ankle?" "Hurts," she admitted, "but better than last night." "Good, that's good." He moved to the stove. "I've got coffee going, and Zoe insisted on making muffins. They're edible." From the kitchen, Zoe's voice called out, "I heard that." Despite everything, Victoria smiled. Jamal brought her a mug of coffee, black strong, and a plate with a slightly lopsided blueberry muffin. Zoe bounded in behind him, flour dusting her nose. "I made them myself," she announced proudly. "Well, Daddy helped with the oven part, but I did the mixing." "They look wonderful," Victoria said, and meant it. Zoe beamed and settled on the floor with her own muffin, immediately pulling out a box of crayons and a fresh sheet of paper. Jamal sat on the coffee table across from Victoria, his hands wrapped around his own mug. For a moment they ate in comfortable silence. Then he spoke, his voice careful. "Look, I know it's not my business, but if someone's looking for you, if you're in danger, I need to know what we're dealing with. For Zoe's sake, if nothing else." Victoria set down her mug. Her hands trembled slightly. "You're right," she said quietly. "You deserve to know." She took a breath. "The man from last night. His name is Marcus Chen. He's my fiancé. Or, he was supposed to be." Jamal's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. "The guy who tried to take you." "Yes." Victoria's voice was barely above a whisper. 3 days ago, I found an email on his phone. By accident. I wasn't snooping. She stopped, shook her head. "It doesn't matter. What matters is what I saw." "What did you see?" "Plans, contracts, communications with 5 members of my company's board." Her voice hardened. "A scheme to force me out and take over Sterling Tech, my father's company, the company he built from nothing." Jamal leaned forward. "They were going to steal it." "Not steal. That would be too obvious. They were going to use the marriage. Have me sign over controlling interest as part of our unified business strategy. Marcus would become CEO. I'd be, I don't know, a figurehead, a trophy wife." She laughed bitterly. "I was so stupid. 3 years. 3 years I thought he loved me." "You're not stupid for trusting someone." "I should have known better." Victoria's hands clenched into fists. "My father warned me before he died. He said, 'Be careful who you let close. In our world, everyone wants something.'" Zoe looked up from her drawing. "What happened 3 days ago after you found the email?" Victoria glanced at the little girl, then back at Jamal. "I took pictures, 6 pages of the most damning documents. Then Marcus came home and found me with his phone." Her voice went flat, clinical, like she was describing something that happened to someone else. "He knew immediately what I'd seen. He didn't even try to deny it. He just smiled. Said it didn't matter because I was going to sign the papers anyway." She paused. "I said no." "Good," Jamal said quietly. The next day, he called an emergency board meeting. Told me it was about quarterly projections. But when I walked in, all 12 members were there. And Marcus had the transfer documents ready. He said I could sign them voluntarily or they'd remove me by force, declare me mentally unfit, whatever it took. Her voice started to shake. I refused. I stood up to leave. And Marcus, she touched her forehead where the butterfly bandages were. He grabbed my arm, pulled me back. I tried to break free and I tripped, fell down the conference room stairs. "Jesus," Jamal breathed. 10 marble steps. I felt my ankle snap on the 3rd one. Victoria's eyes were distant now, reliving it. The board just stood there, watching. Not one person helped me. Marcus came down the stairs and stood over me. He said, "Sign the papers or I'll make sure you never walk out of this building." Zoe had stopped drawing. She was staring at Victoria, her eyes wide and shining with tears. "I crawled," Victoria continued, "to the back exit. Service entrance. I don't know how long it took. Every movement was—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "I made it outside, into an alley, but I couldn't go any farther. And then Marcus and his security found me." She looked at Jamal. "And then you found me." The room was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Jamal's jaw was tight, his knuckles white around his coffee mug. "Those photos you took," he said finally. "Do you still have them?" Victoria reached for her purse, the one Zoe had carried in last night. With shaking hands, she pulled out her phone. Cracked screen, but it still worked. 6 pictures. It's not everything, but it's enough to prove there was a conspiracy. Her voice broke. "I don't know what to do with them. If I go to the police, Marcus has connections, judges, attorneys. He'll bury it. He'll bury me." Jamal stared at the phone for a long moment. Then he said, "We get more." Victoria blinked. "What?" 6 pictures isn't enough to take down a whole conspiracy, but it's a start. If we can get into your company's servers, pull the full communications, the contracts, the money trails, that's enough. I can't just walk into my own building. "No, but you can access it remotely, right? You're still CEO. You still have credentials." Victoria's mind started turning. "The system. I'd need a secure connection. A computer they can't trace." "I got a laptop. It's old, but it works." "It's not that simple. The security protocols." "Then we find someone who knows how to get around them." Jamal leaned forward. "Look, I know a guy. Devin. We served together. He does cybersecurity now. Freelance. If anyone can help us get that information safely, it's him." Victoria stared at him. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "This." She gestured around. "You already saved my life. You've given me a place to stay, food, medical care. You don't owe me anything. You don't even know me. So why are you helping me fight this fight?" Jamal set down his mug. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. "You remember what I said last night about how I was a corpsman?" Victoria nodded. "There was a fire 3 years ago, small house in East Atlanta. I was first on scene." His eyes went distant. "I heard screaming. A woman. She was trapped in the upstairs bedroom. Fire was spreading fast. Zoe had gone very still. I went in, found her, carried her out." Jamal's voice was flat now, emotionless. "But by the time I got her to the ambulance, she'd inhaled too much smoke. She died on the way to the hospital. Jamal, I'm so—" Her name was Mrs. Patterson, 72 years old, lived alone, no family. He looked up, met Victoria's eyes. "The fire was ruled arson. Her landlord wanted her out so he could sell the building. He paid someone to torch it." Victoria's breath caught. The landlord had money. Good lawyers. Case got buried. He walked away. Jamal's hands clenched. "I couldn't save her, and I couldn't get her justice. That's something I have to live with every day." He leaned forward. "But you're here, you're alive, and you've got evidence. So yeah, I'm gonna help you, because maybe this time the person with power doesn't get to just walk away." The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. Then Zoe spoke up, her voice small but determined. "My daddy is a hero, even when he doesn't think he is." Victoria looked at the little girl, then back at Jamal. Something in her chest, something that had been locked tight for years, began to crack open. "Okay," she said. "Let's do it. Let's get the evidence." Jamal nodded once. "I'll call Devin, set up a meeting. It could take days, maybe weeks, and Marcus will be looking for me. Then you stay here, off the grid. We work fast and we work smart." Victoria felt tears prickling at her eyes again. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We haven't won anything." Jamal stood, grabbed his phone from the counter. "But we're gonna try." He stepped into the kitchen to make the call. Zoe scooted closer to Victoria, holding up her drawing. It was a picture of 3 stick figures, one tall, with dark skin, one small, with pigtails, and one with yellow hair. "This is us," Zoe said simply. "You, me, and Daddy." Victoria took the drawing with trembling hands. The 3 figures were holding hands, standing in front of a small house with a bright sun overhead. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "You can keep it, to remember that you're not alone anymore." And that's when Victoria finally broke. She pulled Zoe into a hug and cried, really cried for the first time since her mother died 22 years ago. She cried for the girl she used to be who loved to paint and dream. She cried for the woman she'd become who'd forgotten how to feel anything but ambition. And she cried for the possibility, fragile and terrifying, that maybe, just maybe, she could become someone new, someone real, someone who belonged. The next morning arrived with pale sunlight and the smell of burnt toast. Victoria limped into the kitchen, using the wall for support. Her ankles still throbbed, but the swelling had gone down. She could put a little weight on it now without wanting to scream. Jamal stood at the stove, scraping blackened bread into the trash. "Damn it," he muttered. "Need help?" Victoria offered. He turned surprised. "You should be resting." "I've been resting. I'm going stir-crazy." She hobbled to the counter. "What are you making?" "Was trying to make French toast. Zoe's favorite, but I got distracted and—" He gestured at the smoking pan. Victoria smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. "Start over. I'll supervise." "You know how to cook." "God, no, but I can't do worse than burnt." Jamal laughed. The sound was warm, unexpected. It filled the small kitchen like sunlight. They started again. Jamal cracked eggs while Victoria mixed cinnamon and vanilla, her movements clumsy, unused to the rhythm of a kitchen. When she reached for the whisk, their hands brushed. Both of them froze. Just for a second. Then Victoria pulled back her cheeks, flushing. "Sorry. It's fine." Jamal's voice was rougher than usual. He cleared his throat. Here, you whisk. I'll heat the pan." They worked side by side in comfortable silence, their shoulders occasionally touching in the cramped space. Victoria found herself acutely aware of him, the way he moved with quiet efficiency, the faint scent of soap and coffee, the calluses on his hands. When was the last time she'd stood in a kitchen with someone actually done something together, not just existed in the same space? She couldn't remember. "Daddy Victoria," Zoe's voice called from the living room. "Come look." They found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by drawings. She held up a fresh sheet of paper, beaming with pride. "I made a family portrait." Victoria's breath caught. The drawing showed 3 figures detailed now, not just stick people. A tall man with kind eyes and strong arms, a little girl with wild curls and a bright smile, and a woman with long hair standing between them, holding their hands. "That's you," Zoe said, pointing to the blonde woman. "See, I gave you a purple dress because purple is the color of queens. And you're standing with us because—" She paused, suddenly shy. "Because I think you fit." Victoria knelt down slowly, her injured ankle protesting. She took the drawing with trembling hands. "Zoe, this is—" Her voice cracked. "This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever made for me." "Really?" Zoe's eyes widened. "More beautiful than fancy stuff." "So much more." Zoe threw her arms around Victoria's neck. "I'm glad you're here, even if it's because something bad happened." Victoria held the little girl close, fighting back tears. Over Zoe's shoulder, she saw Jamal watching them, his expression unreadable. "Hey, Zoe," he said softly, "why don't you show Victoria your art supplies? Maybe she'd like to draw too." "You draw." Zoe pulled back her face, lighting up. "I used to." Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. "A long time ago." "Then you have to now. Come on." Zoe grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the small dining table where crayons and colored pencils were scattered like confetti. Victoria settled into a chair. Zoe pushed a blank sheet of paper toward her and dumped a box of crayons between them. "Draw whatever you want," Zoe instructed. "That's the rule. No bad drawings, only honest ones." Victoria picked up a blue crayon. Her hand hovered over the paper. "I don't know what to draw." "Draw what you feel," Zoe said simply. Jamal appeared with plates of slightly better French toast. He set them down quietly, then pulled up a chair. "You really used to draw?" he asked. Victoria nodded, still staring at the blank page. "When I was young. Before—" She stopped. "Before what?" She set down the crayon. "Can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone?" "Of course." Victoria took a breath. "My mother was an artist, a painter. She was incredibly talented, but when she married my father, he made her stop. Said it was a waste of time, that she needed to focus on being a proper CEO's wife." Her voice grew quieter. She tried. For years, she tried to be what he wanted. She threw charity galas. She smiled for cameras. She attended board meetings and never spoke unless spoken to. Victoria's hands clenched. "But I remember, sometimes I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and find her in the study painting by lamplight, like she was stealing moments of herself back." "What happened to her?" Jamal asked gently. "When I was 12, I found her." Victoria's eyes were distant. In the bathtub. Empty pill bottles on the counter. She'd left a note. Zoe had stopped coloring, her small face serious. The note said, "Darling girl, don't live like me. Don't marry for money. Don't give up your dreams for anyone. Be brave enough to choose yourself." A tear slipped down Victoria's cheek. I kept that note for years, but when I turned 16, my father found it. He burned it. Told me to forget my mother's weakness. Told me I was going to business school, going to take over the company, going to marry someone appropriate. She laughed bitterly. And I did. I did everything he said. I buried the part of me that loved art, that dreamed of painting. I became exactly what he wanted. Until Marcus, Jamal said. Until Marcus. Victoria wiped her eyes. I thought if I was successful enough, powerful enough, perfect enough, then maybe I'd finally feel whole. But all I felt was empty. She picked up the blue crayon again. I haven't drawn anything since the day my father burned that note. 22 years. Zoe scooted closer. Then draw your mom, so she can see you being brave. Victoria's hand shook as she pressed the crayon to paper. The first line was hesitant, uncertain. Then something shifted. Her hand moved faster. Blue became green, became yellow. She drew without thinking, just feeling. A garden. Flowers blooming wild and free. A woman standing in the center, her face lifted to the sun. And at the woman's feet, a small girl holding a paintbrush. When she finished, Victoria sat back breathless. "That's beautiful," Jamal said quietly. "It's my mother's garden, from before, when she was happy." Victoria touched the small figure. "And that's me. The me I could have been." Zoe studied the drawing seriously. "You can still be her." "I don't know how." "You just did." Zoe pointed to the paper. "You drew her, so she's still inside you. You just have to let her out." Victoria stared at the little girl, 7 years old and wiser than most adults she'd known. She looked at Jamal. "How did you—" She gestured at Zoe. "How did you raise someone so incredible?" Jamal's expression softened. "I can't take all the credit. Her mother Sarah, she was the one who taught Zoe about kindness, about seeing people, really seeing them." His voice grew rough. "Sarah used to say, 'The world's got enough people chasing money. Be someone who chases meaning instead.' She sounds amazing." She was. Jamal stood abruptly, moving to the kitchen. "I should clean up breakfast." But Victoria saw the way his shoulders tensed, the way his hands gripped the counter a little too hard. She glanced at Zoe. "Tell me about your mom." Zoe's face brightened, even as tears gathered in her eyes. "Mama was a teacher. She taught first grade. She always smelled like markers and vanilla, and she sang all the time, even when she couldn't remember the words. She sounds wonderful." She was. Zoe picked up a green crayon. "She died in a car accident. A drunk driver hit her car. Daddy said she didn't feel any pain. But I think he says that, so I won't be scared." Victoria's heart clenched. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. It's okay. I mean, it's not okay. But Daddy says it's okay to be sad sometimes. That sadness means we loved someone very much." Zoe looked up. "Were you sad when your mama died?" "Yes, I still am sometimes." "Me too." Zoe leaned against Victoria's side. "But maybe that's okay, because it means they were really important." From the kitchen, Jamal's voice was thick. "Zoe, baby, come help me with these dishes." "Okay." Zoe bounced up and ran to him. Victoria watched them, Jamal lifting Zoe onto a step stool, the two of them side by side at the sink, Zoe chattering about her drawing, while Jamal nodded and handed her plates to dry. This, she thought, this is what I've been missing. Not wealth, not power, but this. Simple moments, burnt toast and crayon drawings and conversations that actually meant something. Family. She looked down at her drawing again. The woman in the garden, the little girl with the paintbrush. For the first time in 22 years, Victoria felt something stirring inside her. Not ambition, not fear, but possibility. Maybe Zoe was right. Maybe it wasn't too late to become the person she was always meant to be. Maybe she could still choose herself. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to do it alone. Victoria, Jamal called from the kitchen. "You want more coffee?" "Yes, please." He brought her a fresh mug, their fingers brushing again as she took it. This time, neither of them pulled away quite so fast. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything. You already thanked me. I mean it, though. You and Zoe, you've given me something I didn't know I needed." "What's that?" She looked at the drawing in front of her, at the little girl in the garden, free and wild and alive. "Hope," she whispered, and when Jamal smiled, really smiled, the kind that crinkled the corners of his eyes, Victoria felt something in her chest crack open just a little bit more. The coffee tasted better than it should have. The apartment felt warmer than it was. And for the first time in her entire life, Victoria Sterling understood what it meant to be home. Days turned into a week, and Victoria stayed. Not because she had nowhere else to go, though that was partly true, but because leaving felt impossible. Like stepping out of this small apartment would mean stepping back into a version of herself she no longer recognized. Every morning started the same way. Jamal's alarm at 6, the soft shuffle of his footsteps as he tried not to wake them, the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen, and every morning Victoria found herself waking up too unable to sleep through the quiet sounds of domesticity she'd never experienced before. "You're up early again," Jamal said on the 7th morning, finding her already on the couch sketching on one of Zoe's spare sheets of paper. Couldn't sleep. She held up the drawing, a simple landscape, trees and sky. "Thought I'd practice." He poured her coffee without asking, adding just a splash of milk the way she liked it. He'd noticed on day 3, remembered by day 4. "Your ankle's looking better." "It is." She flexed her foot carefully. "I can almost walk without limping now." "Good. That means we can start physical therapy." He sat on the coffee table across from her. "You gotta rebuild the strength or it'll never heal right." "You're very bossy, you know that. Comes with the territory. Marines, then a corpsman, now a dad." He grinned. "Bossy is kind of my thing." She smiled, sipping her coffee. These moments, these quiet morning exchanges had become her favorite part of the day. "Okay, boss, what's the therapy?" "Walking. Slow circles around the apartment. Then we graduate to the hallway. Then the stairs." "That sounds terrible." "It is, but necessary." He stood offering his hand. "Come on, time to suffer." Victoria took his hand and he pulled her gently to her feet. His grip was firm, steady. She put weight on her bad ankle and winced. "Easy," he murmured. "One step at a time. I got you." They started slow, just standing, shifting her weight back and forth. Then a single step, then another. "Good, that's good. Keep going." His hand never left hers. When she stumbled, he caught her. When she wanted to quit, he encouraged her. "I hate this," she muttered after the 10th lap around the living room. "I know. My ankle is screaming." "I know. You're a terrible physical therapist. You're a terrible patient." But he was smiling. By the time Zoe woke up, Victoria had managed 20 laps. Her ankle was throbbing, her forehead damp with sweat, but she'd done it. Daddy Victoria Zoe appeared in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "What are you doing?" "Your dad's torturing me," Victoria said, collapsing back onto the couch. "He does that because he cares." Zoe climbed onto the couch beside her. "Can we make pancakes today?" Jamal groaned. "Zoe, we had pancakes twice this week already." "But Victoria's never made them, and she needs to learn." Victoria laughed. "I'm pretty sure I'll burn down your kitchen." "That's what fire extinguishers are for," Zoe said cheerfully. They made pancakes. Or rather, they attempted to make pancakes. Victoria stood at the stove, Jamal on one side, coaching her Zoe on the other, shouting encouragements. The first pancake stuck to the pan. The second one was raw in the middle. The third caught fire. "Oh my God!" Victoria jumped back as flames licked up from the pan. Jamal grabbed the pan and shoved it under the faucet, dousing it with water. Steam billowed up. For a moment there was silence. Then Zoe started giggling, and Victoria started laughing, and Jamal just shook his head, grinning despite himself. "That," he said, "was impressively bad. I warned you." Victoria doubled over, laughing so hard her stomach hurt. "I told you I can't cook." "You weren't kidding." Jamal tossed the charred remains into the trash. "Okay, new rule. I cook. You assist. And by assist, I mean stand there and hand me things." "I can do that." They started over. This time, Victoria just watched, handing him the bowl when he asked the spatula when he needed it. She found herself mesmerized by the easy way he moved through the kitchen like he'd done this 1,000 times. "You're good at this," she said. "Practice. When Sarah died, I had to learn fast. Zoe needed to eat, and takeout gets expensive." "Did Sarah teach you?" "Some. The basics." His voice softened. "She used to make these elaborate breakfasts on Sundays. Waffles, eggs, bacon fruit salad, the works. Said it was the most important meal of the week because we were all together." "She sounds wonderful." "She was." He flipped a pancake perfect and golden. "She would have liked you." Victoria's breath caught. "Really?" "Yeah. She always said you could tell a lot about a person by how they treat kids, and Zoe adores you." "So yeah, Sarah would have approved." Something warm bloomed in Victoria's chest. "I adore Zoe too," she said quietly. Jamal glanced at her, his eyes holding hers for a long moment. Then he cleared his throat and turned back to the stove. "All right, pancakes are ready. Zoe, come eat." They sat at the small dining table, three of them squeezed around a space meant for two. Zoe chattered about a dream she'd had where they all lived in a treehouse. Jamal listened patiently, asking questions, making her laugh. And Victoria just watched them, memorizing this moment, the way the morning light caught in Zoe's curls, the sound of Jamal's low chuckle, the feeling of belonging to something bigger than herself. "Victoria," Zoe's voice pulled her back. "You okay? You look sad." "Not sad," Victoria said, her voice thick. "Happy. Just very happy." The afternoon brought Devin. Jamal's friend arrived at 2 o'clock carrying a battered laptop bag and walking with a slight limp, his prosthetic leg visible below his jeans. "Jamal." Devin clasped hands with him, pulling him into a brief hug. "Been too long, brother." "Too long," Jamal agreed. Then he gestured to Victoria. "Devin, this is Victoria. Victoria Devin Harris." Devin's eyes were sharp, assessing, but his handshake was gentle. "Ma'am, Jamal told me a bit about your situation. Sounds like you've got quite a fight on your hands." "That's putting it mildly." "Well, let's see what we can do." Devin settled at the dining table, pulling out a laptop that looked like it had survived a war zone. "I'm gonna need your login credentials, access codes, anything that can get us into Sterling Tech's servers." Victoria rattled off usernames and passwords while Devin's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Okay," he muttered. "You've still got executive access. That's good. But they've changed some of the security protocols since you've been gone, probably trying to lock you out. Can you get around it?" "Can I?" Devin looked up, grinning. "Lady, I cracked Taliban encrypted communications. Corporate firewalls are child's play." His fingers moved faster. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, green text on black background, incomprehensible to Victoria, but apparently crystal clear to Devin. "There we go. I'm in." He leaned back. "All right, what are we looking for?" "Email correspondence between Marcus Chen and the board members, specifically anyone named in those original photos." Victoria pulled out her phone, showing him the 6 images she'd taken. Devin's expression darkened as he looked through them. "These people are real pieces of work. Can you get the full emails?" "Already on it." His fingers flew. "Downloading the entire email server for the past 3 years. Gonna take a few hours, but we'll have everything." "Won't they notice?" "Not if I route it through about 15 proxy servers across 6 countries. Devin smirked. "By the time they trace it, the trail will be so cold they'll think it was a ghost." Jamal squeezed Victoria's shoulder. "Devin's the best. If anyone can get this evidence, it's him." They worked through the afternoon. Devin hunched over his laptop, occasionally muttering to himself. Jamal made sandwiches. Zoe colored at the other end of the table, occasionally asking Devin questions about computers that he answered with surprising patience. And Victoria watched it all, feeling something shift inside her. These people, a former Marine turned electrician, a hacker with a prosthetic leg, a 7-year-old girl with crayon-stained fingers, they were fighting for her. Not because she paid them, not because they wanted something, but because it was right. "Got something," Devin said suddenly. "You're going to want to see this." They crowded around the laptop. On the screen was an email chain Marcus to board member Richard Townsend. "Once she signs the transfer documents, we move immediately. She'll be removed from all decision-making. If she resists, we'll use the mental health angle. I've already got a psychiatrist lined up to declare her unstable." Victoria's hands clenched into fists. Devin scrolled down. More emails, more evidence, plans to liquidate company assets, offshore accounts, shell corporations. "This is," Victoria's voice shook, "this is criminal fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. And we've got it all." Devin started copying files to an external hard drive. "Every email, every document, every damn transaction. This is enough to bury them. How long until you have everything?" "Another hour, maybe 2. He glanced up at her. "But you need to be ready. Once you release this evidence, there's no going back. They'll come after you hard. Let them come." Victoria's voice was steel. "I'm done running." That night after Devin left and Zoe was asleep, Victoria and Jamal sat on the small balcony outside the apartment. The city stretched below them, lights flickering in the darkness, distant sirens wailing. "You okay?" Jamal asked. "I don't know." Victoria pulled Jamal's jacket, the one he'd draped over her shoulders, tighter. "A week ago, I thought my life was over. And now, Now I'm sitting on a balcony with a man I barely know, planning to take down my ex-fiancé and half my board of directors. She laughed, but it came out shaky. It's insane. Little bit, yeah. They sat in silence for a moment. Jamal, Victoria's voice was soft. Why are you really doing this? And don't say it's because it's the right thing. There's more to it than that. He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. After Sarah died, I was angry. At the drunk driver, at the lawyers who got him off with a slap on the wrist, at a system that let rich people buy their way out of consequences. He stared out at the city. I couldn't save her, couldn't get her justice. And it broke something in me. Victoria waited, letting him find the words. When I saw you in that alley, scared and hurt, and then I saw that guy in his expensive suit. Jamal's jaw clenched. I saw every rich asshole who ever got away with destroying someone's life. And I thought maybe this time I can do something. Maybe this time I can help someone fight back. It's not your responsibility to save everyone. I know. But maybe I can save you. He looked at her. And maybe that's enough. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. She reached over and took his hand, rough, calloused, warm. You already did save me, she whispered. The moment you stopped your truck. Their fingers intertwined. Neither of them pulled away. They sat like that, hands clasped, watching the city lights blur through Victoria's tears until the cold drove them back inside. And when they finally went to their separate sleeping spaces, Victoria to the couch, Jamal to his chair, something had shifted between them, something neither of them was quite ready to name. But it was there, growing, real. The pounding on the door came at 7 in the morning. Jamal was up instantly, his marine instincts kicking in. He moved to the window, peered through the blinds. His stomach dropped. Victoria, he said quietly, we got company. She sat up on the couch, her face going pale. Marcus. Worse. Lawyers. Reporters. And yeah, Marcus is down there too. The pounding came again, harder this time. Mr. Rivers, we know Miss Sterling is inside. We have a court order. Zoe stumbled out of her bedroom, rubbing her eyes. Daddy, what's happening? It's okay, baby. Just some people at the door. He picked her up, carried her back toward her room. I need you to stay in here, okay? Play with your toys. Don't come out until I say. But please, Zoe, for me. She nodded, her eyes wide and frightened. Jamal came back to the living room. Victoria was standing now, leaning heavily on her good leg, her face drawn tight with fear. What do we do? She asked. We open the door. We don't let them see you scared. He moved to her side. You're Victoria Sterling, CEO. You don't hide. Got it. She took a shaky breath. Got it. Good. Stay behind me. Let me handle this. Jamal unlocked the door and opened it. 5 men in expensive suits stood in the hallway. Behind them, 3 people with cameras. And at the back, Marcus Chen looking perfectly composed in a charcoal gray suit. The lead attorney, a sharp-faced man with silver hair, held up a document. Mr. Rivers, I'm Gerald Hawthorne, attorney for Sterling Tech. We have a court order for Miss Victoria Sterling to appear before the board of directors immediately. Let me see that. Jamal took the paper, scanned it. It looked official, a judge's signature at the bottom. This says she has to appear. Doesn't say anything about you dragging her out of here. Mr. Rivers, we're prepared to have the police enforce this order if necessary. Then call them, because Miss Sterling isn't going anywhere until she's ready. Marcus stepped forward, his smile cold. Still playing hero, I see. How noble. His eyes shifted past Jamal. Victoria, darling, this has gone on long enough. Come home. We can work this out. Victoria moved into view, standing beside Jamal. Her voice was steady despite her shaking hands. I don't have a home with you, Marcus. I never did. You're not well. Marcus's voice dripped with false concern. You've been through a trauma. You need proper care, professional help. I'm perfectly fine. Are you? Marcus gestured around. You're hiding in a slum with a stranger. That doesn't sound like rational behavior to me. Jamal's jaw clenched. Watch your mouth. Or what? You'll assault me like you assaulted my security team. Marcus's smile widened. Yes, I've documented everything. The violence, the threats. When this goes to court, Mr. Rivers, you'll be lucky if you only lose custody of your daughter. Victoria gasped. Don't you dare. I dare quite a bit, actually. Marcus pulled out his phone. I've already made calls. Child Protective Services will be very interested to know that Mr. Rivers is harboring a fugitive and putting his child in danger. I'm not a fugitive, Victoria said through gritted teeth. The board has filed charges, embezzlement, fraud. You stole company property and fled. That makes you a fugitive. Marcus looked at Jamal. And you're aiding and abetting. That's a felony. The cameras were rolling now, catching every word. Jamal felt rage building in his chest, hot and dangerous, but he kept his voice level. Get out of my building. We're not leaving without Victoria. Then I guess you're not leaving. Jamal stepped forward, putting himself between Marcus and Victoria, because she's under my protection. And I don't care how many lawyers you bring. I don't care what threats you make. You're not taking her. One of the attorneys stepped forward. Mr. Rivers, I strongly advise. I didn't ask for your advice. A commotion at the end of the hallway. 2 uniformed police officers appeared, pushing through the crowd. What's going on here? The first officer asked. Marcus immediately switched to a concerned expression. Officers, thank God. This man is holding my fiancée against her will. She needs psychiatric help, and he's preventing us from getting her the care she needs. The officer looked at Jamal. Sir, is this true? No. Miss Sterling is here voluntarily. She's free to leave whenever she wants. These people are harassing us. Miss Sterling? The officer looked past Jamal to Victoria. Are you here voluntarily? Victoria's voice rang out clear and strong. Yes, I am. Mr. Chen is lying. I'm not his fiancée anymore, and I'm not going anywhere with him. See? Marcus said quickly. She's clearly not in her right mind. She's confused, disoriented. I'm perfectly lucid, Marcus, and I'm done with your manipulation. The officer studied the situation, clearly uncomfortable. Look, folks, this is getting out of hand. If there's a court order, the court order says I have to appear before the board. Victoria interrupted. It doesn't say when. It doesn't say I have to go with them. I'll appear on my own terms. The attorney started to protest, but the officer held up a hand. That's technically correct, ma'am. The order doesn't specify immediate enforcement. He looked at the crowd. I think everyone needs to clear this hallway before we have a fire code violation. This is absurd, Marcus began. Sir, clear the hallway, or I'll cite you for disturbing the peace. Marcus's face flushed red, his composure finally cracking. You have no idea what you're protecting, officer. She's a criminal. I'm a woman who finally woke up to your schemes, Marcus. Victoria's voice cut through his rant like a blade. And I'm not playing your games anymore. The photographers were eating this up, cameras flashing, recording everything. Marcus realized his mistake. He smoothed his expression back into place, but the damage was done. Fine, he said coldly. We'll go. But Victoria, you have 48 hours to appear before the board. After that, we'll have you arrested for contempt. And your friend here, he looked at Jamal. I'll make sure he loses everything. He turned and walked away, his entourage following. The hallway slowly emptied. When the door finally closed, Victoria's legs gave out. Jamal caught her, easing her back to the couch. It's okay, he murmured. You did great. You didn't let him bully you. Did you hear what he said about Zoe, about CPS? Victoria's voice was panicked. Jamal, I can't let him hurt you. I can't. Hey, look at me. He cupped her face in his hands. He's bluffing. That's all he's got left. Empty threats. But what if he's not? What if he really calls CPS? What if you lose Zoe because of me? That's not going to happen. You don't know that. I know that men like Marcus think money and power mean they can do whatever they want, but they're wrong. Jamal's voice was fierce. We have evidence. We have truth. And that's stronger than anything he's got. Victoria wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But the fear was overwhelming. Zoe appeared in her doorway, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, are the bad men gone? Jamal immediately went to her, scooping her up. Yeah, baby, they're gone. They said mean things about you and about Victoria. I know, but they're just words. They can't hurt us. Zoe buried her face in his shoulder, her small body shaking with sobs. And Victoria watched her heart breaking. This beautiful little girl, this incredible man. They'd given her everything, safety, kindness, hope. And now she was bringing danger to their doorstep. She couldn't let them suffer for her. She wouldn't. That night, while Jamal was putting Zoe to bed, Victoria made a decision. She waited until she heard his soft footsteps coming back to the living room, waited until he settled into his chair. Then she spoke. I have to leave. Jamal's head snapped up. What? You heard what Marcus said. He's going to come after you, after Zoe. I can't let that happen. Victoria? No, listen to me. She stood wobbling slightly on her healing ankle. You've done so much for me, more than anyone ever has, but I won't let you lose your daughter because of me. I won't. So your plan is what? Go back to Marcus. Let him win. My plan is to face the board, to present the evidence, to end this on my terms." Her voice shook, but didn't break. "Devin got everything we need. I have enough to destroy Marcus and everyone who helped him, but I have to do it alone." "The hell you do." "Jamal." "No." He stood crossing to her. "You think I'm going to let you walk back into that viper's nest by yourself after everything we've been through? It's not your fight. It became my fight the moment I picked you up off that street." His voice was rough with emotion. "You're not alone anymore, Victoria. You don't get to make that decision without me." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm trying to protect you. And I'm trying to protect you. So we're at a standoff." He took her hands in his. "But here's the thing. We're stronger together. You know that, right? What if something happens to Zoe because of me? I couldn't live with that. Nothing's going to happen to Zoe. I've already called a lawyer, a real one, not one of Marcus's goons. If CPS shows up, we're ready. And Devin's got friends in the press. We're about to expose everything Marcus has done. By tomorrow, he won't have time to threaten anyone because he'll be too busy defending himself." Victoria looked up at him, her vision blurred with tears. "Why are you doing this?" "Because," he said simply, "somewhere along the way this stopped being about justice and started being about you." The words hung in the air between them. "Jamal, you don't have to say anything. I know this is complicated. I know we barely know each other. But I need you to know you're not just some stranger I helped. You're—" He swallowed hard. "You matter. To me. To Zoe. You matter." Victoria couldn't speak, could barely breathe. All her life she'd been valued for what she could provide. Her father valued her as an heir. Marcus valued her as a tool. The board valued her as a figurehead. But Jamal valued her as a person. Just herself. Nothing more. Nothing less. "I matter to you," she whispered. "Yeah, you do." She closed the distance between them, wrapping her arms around his waist, pressing her face against his chest. His arms came around her immediately, holding her tight. They stood like that for a long moment, neither wanting to let go. Finally, Victoria pulled back just enough to look up at him. "Okay," she said. "We do this together." "Together," he agreed. "But if things go wrong, if Marcus comes after Zoe, you run. You take her, and you get as far away from me as possible. Promise me." Jamal's jaw clenched. "I can't promise that." "Then I'm leaving right now." "Victoria, promise me, Jamal. Please. It's the only way I can do this." He stared at her for a long moment. Then reluctantly he nodded. "Fine. If it comes to that, and it won't, but if it does, I'll make sure Zoe is safe. I promise." "Thank you." She rested her head against his chest again, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Tomorrow she would face her demons. Tomorrow she would fight for her freedom. But tonight she let herself be held by someone who cared, someone who saw her, someone who made her believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worth fighting for. The next morning arrived too soon. Victoria woke at 3 a.m., her mind racing. She lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet sounds of the apartment, Jamal's soft breathing from his chair, the distant hum of traffic outside. She'd made her decision, but she hadn't told Jamal the whole truth. Quietly, she pushed the blanket aside and stood. Her ankle protested but held her weight. She moved through the apartment like a ghost, gathering the few belongings she'd accumulated, the borrowed clothes, Zoe's drawings, the small bag she'd arrived with. Then she sat at the dining table and pulled out a piece of paper. Her hand trembled as she wrote, "Jamal and Zoe. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Please don't be angry. This is the only way I can protect you both. The past 2 weeks have been the happiest of my life. You gave me something I didn't know existed, a family. Real love. The feeling of being seen as just myself, not as a CEO or a possession or a tool. Zoe, you taught me that it's never too late to be brave, that colors can make everything better, that families aren't just born, they're chosen. Jamal, you saved me in every way a person can be saved. You gave me shelter when I had nowhere to go. You gave me hope when I thought I had none left, and you gave me the courage to fight back. But I can't let Marcus hurt you. I can't let him take Zoe away or destroy everything you've built. So I'm going to face him alone. Devin gave me all the evidence we need. I'm going to the board. I'm going to expose Marcus. And I'm going to end this. If things go the way I hope, I'll come back. We'll sit on that couch and laugh about pancakes. And I'll watch Zoe draw her beautiful pictures. And we'll be a family. But if things go wrong, if Marcus wins, I need you to know that these 2 weeks meant everything to me. You changed my life. You changed me. Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for being you. I love you both. Victoria. She folded the letter carefully and propped it against the coffee maker where Jamal would find it first thing. Then she grabbed her bag, slipped on her shoes, the designer heels Jamal had tried to fix, now held together with duct tape, and hope, and moved toward the door. Her hand was on the doorknob when a voice stopped her. "You're leaving." She turned. Jamal stood in the hallway, fully dressed, his arms crossed over his chest. "How long have you been awake?" she whispered. "Since you got up. I know what restless insomnia sounds like, Victoria. I've lived with it for 3 years. I left you a note. I'm sure it's very touching, but I'd rather hear it from you." He walked toward her slowly. "You were going to sneak out, in the middle of the night, without saying goodbye. It's better this way. For you, because it sure as hell isn't better for me. Or Zoe." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Jamal, you heard what Marcus said. He's going to destroy you. He's going to call CPS. He's going to let him try." Jamal's voice was steel. "I'm not afraid of him. But I am. I'm terrified of what he'll do to you. To Zoe. Don't you understand? Everyone I love gets hurt. My mother died because of my father's cruelty. I can't," her voice broke. "I can't be the reason you lose your daughter." Jamal closed the distance between them in 2 strides. He cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me. Marcus can threaten all he wants, but he doesn't have the power he thinks he does. We have evidence, we have truth, and we have people who believe in us. That's not enough. It has to be enough, because the alternative is you walking back into that boardroom alone with no backup, no support, and Marcus and his lawyers circling like sharks." His thumb brushed away her tears. "I can't let you do that. It's not your choice." "Then let me come with you. I won't go into the boardroom. I know you have to do that part yourself. But let me be there, in the building, close enough to help if things go wrong." "Jamal, please." His voice cracked. "Don't make me lose someone else I care about. I can't do it again. I can't." Victoria stared at him, her heart breaking. She saw the fear in his eyes, raw and real. The same fear he must have felt when Sarah died, when he realized he couldn't protect the person he loved. "You care about me," she whispered. "More than I should. More than is probably smart, given that we've known each other for 2 weeks. He let out a shaky laugh. "But yeah, I care about you. A lot. I care about you too. That's why I have to go alone." That's the stupidest logic I've ever heard. It's not stupid. It's love isn't about protecting people by pushing them away, Victoria. It's about standing beside them when things get hard. About being there even when it's scary. His voice softened. "Sarah taught me that. She stood by me through deployments, through nightmares, through all the broken parts of me that came back from war. She didn't run. She stayed. But she died. I know. But her death wasn't because she stayed. It was random, cruel, and completely beyond my control." Jamal's hands trembled slightly against her face. "But this, you going in there alone, that's something I can control. That's something I can help with. So please, please let me." Victoria closed her eyes. Tears streamed down her cheeks, soaking his hands. Every instinct screamed at her to protect him, to walk away, to face this alone. But another part of her, the part that had been growing stronger these past 2 weeks, whispered something different. "You're not alone anymore. You don't have to be." She opened her eyes. "Okay," she breathed. "Okay. You can come with me, but you stay outside the boardroom. And if anything happens, anything at all, you take Zoe and you run. Promise me." "I already promised." "Promise me again." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I promise. If it comes to that, I'll keep Zoe safe. I swear it." "Thank you." They stood like that, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. Then Jamal pulled back slightly. "We should get ready. Board meeting is at 9, right?" "Yes, but it's only 3 in the morning, which gives us 6 hours to prepare. Devin's meeting us at 7 with the final evidence files, and I called someone, an old friend from the service. She's a lawyer now. She's going to be there too." Victoria blinked. You already had a plan. Did you really think I was going to let you do this alone?" He smiled, soft and a little sad. "I know you, Victoria Sterling. You're brave and stubborn and willing to sacrifice yourself to protect others, but you're also not very good at asking for help." She let out a watery laugh. "That's fair. So I'm helping, whether you like it or not. I like it. She swallowed hard. "I'm scared." "Me too." He took her hand. "But we're scared together, and that makes it less scary, doesn't it?" She squeezed his hand. "A little bit, yeah. From the hallway came a small voice. "Are you leaving?" They both turned. Zoe stood in her doorway, clutching Bella the rabbit, her eyes wide and wet with tears. "Oh, sweetheart." Victoria limped over to her, kneeling down despite the pain in her ankle. "I'm so sorry. Did we wake you?" "I heard you talking. You said you were going away." Zoe's lower lip trembled. "You said you might not come back. You said you might not come back." Victoria's heart shattered. She pulled Zoe into her arms, holding the little girl tight. "Listen to me. I have to go do something important today, something scary. But your daddy is going to be with me, and we're going to be as safe as we can be. But what if the bad man hurts you?" "He's not going to." Victoria pulled back to look into Zoe's eyes. "Do you remember what you told me about being brave?" Zoe nodded, sniffling. "You said it's never too late to be brave. Well, today I have to be very brave. I have to stand up to the bad man and tell the truth, and I need you to be brave too. Can you do that for me? I don't want to be brave. I want you to stay." "I know, sweetheart, but sometimes being brave means doing scary things even when we don't want to." Victoria brushed tears from Zoe's cheeks. "I promise I will do everything I can to come back to you. Okay? You promise. I promise." Zoe threw her arms around Victoria's neck, squeezing tight. "I love you, Victoria." The words hit like a physical blow. Victoria had heard "I love you" before. From her father, always conditional, always followed by expectations. From Marcus, empty words that meant nothing. But this, from this 7-year-old girl who barely knew her, this was real, pure, unconditional. "I love you too, Zoe," Victoria whispered, her voice breaking. "So much." Jamal crouched down beside them, wrapping his arms around both of them. For a moment, they stayed like that, a knot of 3 people holding on to each other like they could stop the world from pulling them apart. Finally, Jamal spoke. "Zoe, baby, Victoria and I need to get ready. Why don't you go back to bed just for a few more hours?" "Can I sleep in your chair, Daddy next to Victoria's couch, so I'm close?" "Yeah, baby, you can sleep in my chair." Jamal carried Zoe to the recliner, tucking her in with a blanket. She clutched Bella tight, her eyes already drooping. "Daddy," she mumbled sleepily, "you're going to protect Victoria, right?" "With everything I have." "Good, because she's ours now. And we protect what's ours." Jamal's throat tightened. "Yeah, baby, we do." By 7 a.m., Devin had arrived with a laptop bag and a grim expression. "Got everything," he said, setting up at the dining table. 647 emails, 23 forged contracts, audio recordings from 4 separate meetings, bank records showing transfers to offshore accounts, and the pièce de résistance. He pulled up a video file, security footage from Sterling Tech's server room. Someone on your IT team was smart enough to back everything up to an external drive before they started deleting files. This shows Marcus and Richard Townsend physically removing hard drives 3 days after you went missing. Victoria stared at the screen. That's destruction of evidence." "Sure is. And it's all time-stamped and verified." Devin copied files onto 3 separate USB drives, one for you, one for my secure backup, and one for a knock on the door interrupted him. Jamal opened it to reveal a black woman in her mid-40s wearing a sharp navy suit and carrying a leather briefcase. Her hair was cropped short, her eyes intelligent and fierce. "Jamal Rivers, been a long time Marine." "Captain Morrison." Jamal broke into a genuine smile. "You look good." "So do you. Civilian life treating you well." She stepped inside, her eyes sweeping the apartment with tactical precision before landing on Victoria. "And you must be Victoria Sterling. I'm Denise Morrison, JAG Corps retired. Now I do corporate law. And I hear you've got quite a case." Victoria stood, shaking her hand. "Thank you for coming. I don't know what Jamal told you, but he told me enough. Conspiracy to commit fraud, embezzlement, assault, attempted coercion." Denise's smile was sharp. "Honey, I've taken down war criminals. Corporate scumbags are a cakewalk." She set her briefcase on the table. "Here's what's going to happen. You walk into that boardroom at 9 a.m. with me at your side. We present the evidence systematically, no drama, no emotion, just facts. We give them exactly one opportunity to resign quietly before we release everything to the SEC, the FBI, and every major news outlet in the country. And if they don't resign, then we bury them." Denise's voice was ice. "I've already drafted criminal complaints, civil suits, and emergency injunctions. The moment they refuse, we file everything simultaneously. They'll be in handcuffs before lunch." Victoria felt something loosen in her chest. Hope. Real, tangible hope. "What about Marcus? What if he tries something?" "That's where I come in," Jamal said. "I'll be right outside the boardroom. Armed security tried to stop me once. Didn't go well for them." Denise glanced at him. "You're not seriously planning to." "I'm planning to stand in a hallway. If anyone has a problem with that, they can call the cops." Again, his jaw set. Victoria doesn't go in there without backup. Non-negotiable. Denise studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough. But you keep your hands to yourself unless absolutely necessary." "Understood." "Understood." Devon handed Victoria a USB drive. "Everything's on here. Organized by date and type of crime. Should take them about 6 minutes to realize they're completely screwed." Victoria clutched the drive like a lifeline. "Thank you, all of you. I don't know how to—" "Don't thank us yet," Denise interrupted. "Wait until we've won. Then you can buy me a very expensive bottle of whiskey." Despite everything, Victoria laughed. At 8:30, they piled into Jamal's truck. Zoe had been dropped off at a neighbor's, a kind older woman named Mrs. Chen, who'd watched her before. The drive to Sterling Tech's downtown headquarters was silent. Victoria stared out the window, watching the city wake up. People heading to work, coffee shops opening, normal life happening all around them. She might lose everything today. Her company, her reputation, her freedom. But she'd already gained something more valuable. She glanced at Jamal, his hands steady on the wheel, his jaw set with determination. He'd given her family, hope, the courage to fight back. Whatever happened today, she wouldn't face it alone. The Sterling Tech building loomed ahead, 40 stories of glass and steel. Victoria had walked into this building hundreds of times, but today it felt like walking into battle. Jamal parked in the visitor lot. They sat for a moment in silence. "You ready?" he asked quietly. "No, but I'm going anyway." He reached over and took her hand. "You've got this. You're stronger than you know." "I'm terrified." "Good. That means you're smart, but you're also brave. And you've got the truth on your side." He squeezed her hand. "And you've got me." Victoria turned to face him fully. There was so much she wanted to say. About what he meant to her. About how these 2 weeks had changed everything. About how she was falling for him in a way that was both terrifying and beautiful. But there wasn't time, so instead she leaned across the console and kissed him. It was quick, soft, desperate. When she pulled back, his eyes were wide. "Victoria, later," she whispered. "We'll talk about this later. When it's over. When I come back." "When you come back," he agreed. Denise rapped on the window. "Let's move, people. We're on the clock." They climbed out of the truck. Victoria straightened her borrowed blazer, one of Denise's spares, and took a deep breath. "Okay," she said. "Let's end this." The Sterling Tech boardroom was exactly as Victoria remembered, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Atlanta. A massive mahogany table, leather chairs that cost more than most people's cars. Marcus sat at the head, her father's chair. The 12 board members turned as Victoria entered with Denise at her side. Some faces showed surprise. Others, particularly Richard Townsend and Jennifer Marks, wore smug satisfaction. "Victoria," Marcus said smoothly, "so glad you could make it. Please sit." He gestured to a chair at the far end of the table. "A junior position. I'll stand." Victoria's voice was steady, despite her racing heart. Denise set up a laptop in the corner. "This meeting is being recorded for legal purposes." Marcus's smile thinned. "Is that really necessary? Given the criminal conspiracy we're about to expose, absolutely." The room went silent. Richard Townsend laughed nervously. "Criminal conspiracy, Victoria, your recent stress has clearly—" "I have evidence." Victoria pulled out the USB drive. 647 emails, 23 forged contracts, audio recordings, bank records, and security footage showing destruction of evidence. She plugged the drive into the presentation system. The screen lit up with the first email. "This is from Marcus to Richard Townsend, October 15th, 3 years ago." Victoria read aloud. "The engagement is secured. Victoria has agreed to marry me. Once we're married, we'll have her sign the transfer documents. She trusts me completely." The fool. Richard's face went pale. Victoria clicked to the next document. This one shows transfers to offshore accounts. $800 million systematically stolen from Sterling Tech over 3 years. She showed email after email. Plans to remove her. Plans to liquidate company assets. Marcus calling her too emotional to run a company. Richard discussing how to declare her mentally incompetent. With each piece of evidence, the board members' faces grew more horrified. Marcus sat perfectly still. Then he began to clap. Slow. Mocking. "Impressive presentation, Victoria, but you've made one mistake." He stood buttoning his jacket. You think evidence matters? I have $50 million in legal fees budgeted. I have judges on speed dial. Do you really think any of this will stick? Yes, Victoria said quietly. Because 15 minutes ago, my attorney filed formal complaints with the SEC, the FBI, and the Georgia Attorney General, along with copies to the Wall Street Journal and CNN. Marcus's composure cracked. You what? Phones around the table began buzzing. Board members read their screens' faces, going from confused to horrified. You bitch! Marcus started toward Victoria. The doors slammed open. 4 FBI agents entered, followed by 2 men in suits. Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. This is insane. I have lawyers. Your lawyers are being detained as we speak, along with Richard Townsend, Jennifer Marks, David Hu, and Patricia Simmons. One by one, the co-conspirators were handcuffed. Marcus's eyes found Victoria. This isn't over. I will destroy you. That electrician, his daughter, I will finish that sentence. Jamal's voice came from the doorway, and I'll make sure you get charged with making terroristic threats. He stood there, arms crossed, expression deadly calm. Marcus lunged toward Victoria. Jamal moved like lightning, catching Marcus's arm and twisting it behind his back. That's assaulting a witness, the FBI agent said dryly. Add it to the list. They dragged Marcus away, still screaming. Victoria walked slowly to her father's chair. She stood behind it, hands resting on the leather. For those not involved, she said quietly, you have 2 choices, resign with severance or stay and help me rebuild. Margaret Chen, the oldest board member, her father's friend, stood shakily. She crossed to Victoria and pulled her into a fierce hug. Your mother would be so proud, Margaret whispered. Victoria broke. All the fear, the pain, the weight of 2 weeks, it poured out in shaking sobs. When she finally composed herself, she looked around the room. I'm stepping down as CEO. But I'll stay on the board to help choose my successor. She turned to Margaret. Will you serve as interim CEO? Margaret studied her, then nodded. 6 months, but you stay as board chair. Deal. An hour later, Victoria walked out of Sterling Tech into a swarm of reporters. Miss Sterling, is Marcus Chen arrested? Are you resigning? Victoria stopped, faced the cameras. Marcus Chen and 5 board members were arrested for fraud and embezzlement. Sterling Tech will cooperate fully with investigations. I'm stepping down as CEO to focus on healing. Thank you. She pushed through to the parking lot. Jamal was waiting by his truck. Victoria ran despite her ankle, despite everything, straight into his arms. He caught her, lifting her off her feet. It's over, she gasped. It's really over. You did it. She pulled back to see his face. We did it. So what now? Victoria looked back at the building, at the life she was leaving behind, then at Jamal, the man who'd saved her, fought for her, given her a reason to fight for herself. Now I go home. Home, she smiled. Yeah, to you and Zoe. If that's okay. Jamal kissed her, right there in the parking lot with reporters watching. He kissed her like she was precious, like she was his. When they broke apart, Victoria whispered, I think I love you. You think? I know I love you. Is that crazy? We've only known each other 2 weeks. It's crazy, Jamal agreed. But I love you too. So I guess we're both crazy. Victoria laughed, pure joy bubbling up. Let's go home, she said. Mrs. Chen's apartment was only 10 minutes away, but it felt like the longest drive of Victoria's life. They'd barely parked before Victoria was climbing out, limping toward the entrance. Mrs. Chen opened the door before they knocked. She's been watching the window for an hour, she said warmly. Wouldn't eat. Just kept asking when you'd be back. Zoe, Victoria called. A blur of motion. Zoe came tearing around the corner, pigtails flying. Victoria. She launched herself into Victoria's arms with such force they nearly fell. Jamal caught them both. You came back. You came back. Zoe was crying and laughing. I knew you would. Of course I came back. I promised. Did you beat the bad man? We beat him. He can't hurt anyone anymore. Zoe pulled back her small hands, cupping Victoria's face. So you can stay forever. Victoria looked at Jamal. He was watching them with an expression so tender it made her heart ache. If your dad says it's okay, I'd really like to stay. Daddy! Zoe turned to him. Can she please? Jamal knelt down eye level with his daughter. Zoe, this is big. Victoria living with us means things will change. Are you sure? Yes, she's ours, Daddy. She belongs. Then yeah. Jamal's voice was rough. She can stay, as long as she wants. Zoe squealed and threw her arms around both of them. Back at the apartment, Zoe grabbed Victoria's hand. "Come see, I made something." She pulled Victoria to her bedroom. On the wall was a new drawing, 3 people holding hands in front of a small house. Underneath, in careful printing, "Our forever family." Victoria's knees went weak. She sat on Zoe's bed. "Do you like it?" Zoe asked anxiously. "Zoe, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "It's true, right? You're staying forever." Victoria pulled the little girl onto her lap. "I'm not your mommy. Your mommy was Sarah, and she'll always be your mommy. But if you want, I'd like to be part of your family, to love you and be here for you." "Like a bonus mom." Victoria laughed through tears. "Yeah, like a bonus mom. Can I call you Mama V?" "If you want to." "Mama V, Daddy," she said yes. Jamal appeared in the doorway. He crossed the room and kissed Victoria. Soft, sweet. "It's more than okay," he whispered. That evening, they made dinner together. Victoria dropped things twice, but nobody cared. They ate spaghetti at the small table, Zoe chattering about drawing 100 family pictures. After dinner, Zoe insisted they both tuck her in. "Good night, Mama V," Zoe whispered, hugging her tight. "Good night, sweetheart." They watched her drift off to sleep, then retreated to the living room. Jamal pulled Victoria onto the couch beside him. "So, you're staying. If you'll have me. Always." He kissed her forehead. "But we should probably talk about logistics, space, boundaries, what this actually looks like." "I know, and I will. Tomorrow." Victoria snuggled closer. "Tonight, I just want to sit here and be grateful." "For what?" "For you, for Zoe, for finding my way here." She looked up at him. 2 weeks ago, I thought my life was over. Now I feel like it's finally beginning." "Mine too," Jamal said quietly. "After Sarah died, I thought that was it, that I'd had my chance at love. But then, you stumbled into that alley." "You mean your truck almost hit me?" "Details." He grinned. "Point is, you were exactly what I didn't know I needed." They sat in comfortable silence, Victoria's head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "Jamal," Victoria said softly, "thank you for seeing me. Not the CEO or the money or the mess. Just me. That's the only version of you I ever wanted to see." She kissed him, then slow and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Victoria whispered, "I love you. I love you too." And for the first time in her entire life, Victoria Sterling knew exactly where she belonged. 6 months later, the Phoenix Rising office was small, but bright, 3 rooms in a renovated building in Vine City. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the waiting area where 5 women sat filling out intake forms. Victoria moved between them with easy confidence, her ankle fully healed, her smile genuine. "Miss Sterling," a young black woman approached hesitantly. I read about you in the paper. About what you did, walking away from everything." "I didn't walk away from everything," Victoria said gently. "I walked toward what mattered. I wish I could be that brave." "You're here, aren't you? That takes courage." Victoria squeezed her hand. "We'll help you. That's what we do." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." By noon, Victoria had helped 3 women find emergency housing, connected to, with job training programs and scheduled follow-up appointments for all 5. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jamal Lunch bringing Zoe. "She made you something." Victoria smiled. "Meet you at the park in 20. She grabbed her bag, a simple canvas tote, not designer, and headed out. The park was their spot now, a small playground near both her office and Jamal's electrical business. She found them at their usual bench. Jamal in his work clothes, oil stains on his jeans. Zoe in her school uniform, pigtails slightly askew. Mama V Zoe ran over waving a paper. "Look, I got a gold star in art class." The drawing showed their apartment now with a small balcony garden Victoria had started. 3 stick figures watering flowers together. "It's perfect," Victoria said, pulling Zoe into a hug. Jamal handed her a sandwich. "Turkey and avocado. Your favorite." They ate lunch together, Zoe chattering about school, Jamal telling a story about a client who'd tried to fix their own wiring with duct tape. Victoria watched them, her family, and felt peace settle deep in her bones. "How was your morning?" Jamal asked. "Good. Busy. We helped 5 women today." She took a bite of sandwich. "The board approved additional funding for Phoenix Rising. We can hire 2 more counselors." "That's amazing, baby. How about you? Business good." "Booked solid for 3 weeks. Might need to hire help soon." He grinned. "Turns out people respect an electrician who's honest about pricing." Zoe tugged on Victoria's sleeve. Mama V, can we go to the library after school? I want to get books about gardens. Absolutely. I'll pick you up at 3. They finished lunch and Jamal stood checking his watch. Gotta get back to work, but dinner tonight I'm cooking. Please don't burn anything, Victoria teased. No promises. He kissed her quick but tender. Love you. Love you too. He ruffled Zoe's hair. Be good for Mama V, okay? Always am. After he left, Victoria and Zoe sat together on the bench, watching clouds drift by. Mama V. Zoe's voice was thoughtful. Are you happy? So happy, sweetheart. Happier than I've ever been. Even though you're not rich anymore, Victoria laughed. I'm still pretty comfortable, Zoe. But you're right. I'm not rich like I was. And you know what? What? I don't miss it. Not even a little. She pulled Zoe close. Because now I have something better. I have love. I have purpose. I have you and your dad. We have you too, Zoe said seriously, and we're never letting go. That evening, they gathered around the small dining table, now crammed into a corner because Victoria's desk took up most of the living room. Jamal had made chicken stir-fry, only slightly burned. This is really good, Victoria said, only half lying. Liar, Jamal grinned, but I appreciate it. After dinner, they worked on a puzzle together, 1,000 pieces, because Zoe had insisted they needed a challenge. Mama V, when are you and Daddy getting married? Zoe asked suddenly. Victoria and Jamal both froze. Zoe, Jamal started, what, you love each other. You live together. You should get married. She said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Victoria glanced at Jamal. They'd talked about it vaguely, but nothing concrete. It had only been 6 months. Jamal cleared his throat. That's a good question, baby. He stood, walked to his bedroom, and returned a moment later. He was holding a small box. Victoria's heart stopped. I was gonna wait, Jamal said, kneeling beside her chair. Plan something fancy. But Zoe's right. Why wait when we already know? He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band with 3 small stones, blue, pink, and clear. It's not diamonds, he said. It's sapphire rose quartz and white topaz. Blue for me, pink for Zoe, white for you, because we're stronger together. Victoria's vision blurred with tears. Victoria Sterling, will you marry me? Will you officially become part of this chaotic, beautiful family? Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. Zoe cheered as Jamal slipped the ring onto Victoria's finger. It fit perfectly. He pulled her into a kiss, deep and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Zoe was already drawing on a fresh sheet of paper. What are you making? Victoria asked. A wedding picture. I'm going to be the flower girl, right? The best flower girl ever, Victoria confirmed. That night, after Zoe was asleep, Victoria and Jamal sat on their small balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching the city lights. No regrets, Jamal asked quietly. Not a single one. Victoria held up her hand, watching the ring catch the light. I had everything once money power status, and I was miserable. Now I have so much less, but I have everything that matters. We're not rich, Jamal warned. This apartment is tiny. Money's tight some months. Stop. Victoria turned to face him. I don't need rich. I need real. And this us is the realest thing I've ever had. He kissed her temple. How'd I get so lucky? You stopped your truck. Best decision I ever made. They sat in comfortable silence, Victoria's head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. Jamal. Yeah. Thank you for saving me, for loving me, for giving me a home. Thank you for letting me. Below them, Atlanta hummed with life. Somewhere Marcus was in prison. Sterling Tech was thriving under new leadership. The Phoenix Rising was helping dozens of women rebuild their lives. And here, in a tiny apartment in Vine City, Victoria, Sterling had finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Not power, not wealth, not success, but love, family, purpose, home. She'd walked away from an empire and found a kingdom. And she wouldn't change a thing. Come on, Jamal said, standing and pulling her up. Let's go to bed. Big day tomorrow. What's tomorrow? First day of the rest of our lives. He grinned. Figure we should be well rested. Victoria laughed, the sound bright and free, and followed him inside. Their forever was just beginning.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.